I would love to see a movie about a trans chef.
Yeah, write that down. Someone write that down.
I want to see us playing the boss.
Yes, the boss.
Hello. Welcome to Pride Video Club with me, Raven Smith. Today we're talking about trans representation in the media across film and TV. And joining me in this chat will be Munroe Bergdorf and the wonderful Honey Dijon. How are you?
Good morning. It's early, but we're here.
Good morning. Let's just dive straight into it. Who do we think is owning it in terms of representation of trans characters?
Accurate trans representation is much more of a newer thing because we've been getting much more opportunity to get behind the camera. For me personally, I was influenced by more indie films such as Hedwig and the Angry Inch.
Ladies and gentlemen, whether you like it or not.
Ow!
Hedwig!
Don't you know me?
I could really just relate to some of the themes of being overlooked and not being taken seriously. And I think that that's something that a lot of trans people, if not all trans people, experience at some point.
For me, the most accurate portrayal of trans women was Pose.
Category is royalty.
Because it gave a real description of what it's really like to be a trans woman of color.
I ain't never been certain of anything. It's just been all one day at a time until now.
And just all these intersections that really is what's happening today. So even though for me, the first time I ever really saw a trans person on the screen was Paris is Burning, I think Pose is really taking it to the next level.
I think what's interesting about Paris is Burning is that it's not written by anybody, whereas what you're talking about in kind of fictional films is that there's this divide between who's writing the character and making the character.
Well, yeah, I mean, Paris is Burning was documented by a white lesbian. So she was really capturing a culture through her prism and through her storytelling, as opposed to Pose, because it's us telling our own narratives and our own stories in our own voice.
I think Transparent was a game changer.
Dad? So I have something to tell you.
Our Lady J, who's an amazing scriptwriter and musician, being employed by a studio to write from the trans experience. Ultimately, we need real trans representation without, being confined to the parameters of cisgender expectation. And I think that that's going to come eventually, but with shows like Pose and Transparent, ground has definitely been set.
When you're watching a lot of these trans films, for want of a better phrase, is often that is the storyline rather than how this person is interacting with everything else in their life.
One of the most amazing trans characters of recent times is Hunter Schafer's role in Euphoria. It was just incredible to me that the entire storyline is about a trans amorous man who can't wrap his head around it and the violence that comes with, and how that affects trans women.
Yo, is anybody here friends with Jules?
Really, that's the reality that we have to navigate every single day as transgender women, especially Black transgender women. That's a whole nother ball game.
There's no place in culture or society for men that find themselves in these situations. How do they identify? What does this mean? Like, who do you talk to?
I know you already told your friend I saw her look at me.
She won't tell anyone. I promise.
Because if this ever came out, I'd lose everything.
What friends do you have that are open enough for you to talk about that? And would they even understand? Because the first thing they say is, oh, he's gay. I mean, they just reduce that to that. And trans and gay have nothing to do with each other. One is sexual orientation and one is self-identity. Those are two different things. I think there needs to be more discussion for men to have safe places to talk about this as well. And women. There are a lot of women that are trans amorous too. It's not just cis hetero men.
Trace Lysette's character in Hustlers, there wasn't necessarily a mention of her being trans, but because she was there, she was a representation, and it wasn't denied, but it wasn't made a thing about. That's definitely the next frontier of us being allowed to be ourselves in our entirety without being defined by our genitals or being defined by our bodies or how society sees our bodies.
And where do you think we need to see progress, do you think?
I want to see more humanity in films. And I think what that will come because there are more trans people in positions of power, like a Janet Mock and Our Lady J. But I feel as more trans people are in positions to tell our stories from our point of view, then we'll see more humanity in the characters. And the transness won't be the central theme.
Yeah.
My next question is about Eddie Redmayne and Jared Leto, who both won Oscars for their portrayals of trans people.
Sometimes I think about killing Ina. But it's only the thought that I'd be killing Lily too that stops me.
No, Rayon. No, Rayon. Trust me. You need. No.
I don't want to die.
Is it time that these roles went to trans actors?
Oh, it's been time. And we're at the point now we're holding people accountable if they don't give us the opportunity, or if we're not in the room when those decisions are being made. There's so little opportunity for trans actors anyway. And if you're then giving that opportunity to a cisgender actor to portray a trans person and they've never had any experience of what it's like to be trans, and they don't know the nuances of what we go through every day. I want to see trans people up on screen. I want to see us getting our flowers. I want to see us shining in our unique way. Ultimately, we're the most oppressed minority at the moment. People aren't seeing accurate representation, then that just goes into, it just contributes to the misinformation, the distorted ideologies, and it just plays into the narrative that a trans woman is a cisgender man dressed up.
What do you think?
When I go see these movies, it's a very big disconnect for me because as a trans woman of color, I see these sort of white cis men playing these white trans women that look like cross dressers, and I'm like, whoa, that is so far from my life. And this is what a lot of people think of as trans. And there's nothing wrong with cross-dressing. Those movies for me, like, it would be great to see more trans women of color in leading roles. Mm-hmm. Even in Tangerine, although I really loved it, it just always revolves around sex work. And I know that there are a lot of trans women that do survival sex work, and I feel like there's nothing to be ashamed about with sex work. So I believe anything that is consensual and is not degrading or oppressing or used against someone, and if they're consciously doing it for whatever reasons, okay.
One person that is absolutely incredible that needs all of the awards of her career is Angelica Ross. To see a dark-skinned Black trans woman in a leading role in American Horror Story is just groundbreaking. And what she's doing, that's what we need, isn't it? It's like nuanced human representation of trans people, that we're just like everybody else. We want to be able to play the villains and it not be about us being a villain because of our transness.
Mister, my family will pay cash.
The television in the UK was just horrendously transphobic growing up. There was like shows like There's Something About Miriam, which was a trans woman.
Oh, I remember that, the dating show.
And then at the end, it came out that she was trans.
Like fooling these straight guys. And humor in Britain has a big connection with cross-dressing.
Yeah.
It's always the butt of the joke.
So what roles should we be creating?
I would love to see a movie about a trans chef who has a Michelin star restaurant and falls in love with a guy and it's just a story.
Yeah, write that down. Someone write that down. And finally, what do you guys think of the 3 tropes we need to get rid of?
The 3 tropes that we can get rid of in film is the sex worker, the trickster, and the sociopath.
I think that we could get rid of cisgender people playing trans people. We need to move past the ballroom. I think that this is amazing for Pose, and I want to see Pose continue. But I think that we need another experience to be added. And I want to see more trans villains, but not villainous for our transness. I want to see us, you know, playing the fierce woman. I want to see us playing the boss. I want to see us.
Yes, the boss.
Please bore someone else with your questions.
You know, there's a misguided idea that being trans is a new thing. We've existed throughout the whole of time. You know, we go back into ancient civilizations and
people worshipped.
As, you know, spiritual guides and community leaders. Yeah. I think that it's time that we start to tell history accurately.
He who wins the war writes the book. So the reason we don't know our history is because it's been erased for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Two-spirited people have always either been celebrated or feared. Even in Birth of a Nation, going back to the first early films, how trans people were there, but they were the butt of the joke, but we have always been there. You just had to look for us.
Yeah.
We ain't going nowhere, honey. So you either get right or get left. One of the things about this pandemic that has been really powerful for me is that this virus didn't care about borders, race, status, gender. It didn't care. And that made me realize how connected we are as human beings. And if we all just celebrated each other for who we are instead of trying to tear each other down, you know, our trans liberation is for everybody. It's not just for trans people. Just like Black Lives Matter, it's not just, you know, Black liberation is for everybody. End of story.
That was amazing. So interesting as well. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, Munroe.
Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Raven. Thank you, Emma.
Have a great Pride.
Happy Gay Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride.
Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. It's all in aid of Mermaids and Mind Out, which you can donate to below. We will be back for more Pride Video Club with me, Raven Smith. See you on the other side.